The darkness of space rippled like black water as massive shapes moved through the void. They were not ships in any sense that humans would understand. These vessels were alive, their hulls breathing with slow, steady rhythm. Biomechanical horrors that had crossed 3 galaxies in search of prey. Commander Thexval stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bone Harvester. His form was tall and sleek, covered in adaptive armor that shifted colors like oil on water. 6 arms extended from his torso, each ending in claws that could cut through steel. His head was elongated, with multiple eyes that could see across different spectrums of light. The Vorthak were born hunters, engineered by evolution and enhanced by their own biotechnology to be perfect predators. Behind him, his hunting pack waited in silence. These were the elite of the elite, each one a master killer who had brought down entire worlds. They had never known defeat. They had never known mercy. For 300 years they had swept through space, challenging species after species to ritual combat. Always they won. Always they proved their superiority. Today would be no different. The bioship's sensors pulsed with information, feeding directly into Thexval's nervous system. He could taste the data, feel it flowing through his enhanced mind. Ahead of them lay a small blue and green world, the 3rd planet in what the locals called the Sol system. The inhabitants called themselves humans. Thexval studied the information with growing amusement. These humans were young, barely able to travel between the stars. Their technology was crude metal and circuits, not the elegant bioengineering of advanced species. Their colonies numbered only in the dozens, scattered across nearby systems like seeds thrown carelessly into space. Yet something about these creatures intrigued him. The Vorthak hunting protocols were ancient and precise. They always sought out the apex specimens of each species, the strongest and most dangerous individuals. It was only sporting to face the best a world had to offer before claiming dominion over the weak. But the bioscanners were giving him unusual readings from the human colonies. Most species showed clear hierarchies of strength. Warriors registered, high on the combat scales. Leaders showed enhanced neural activity. Scientists displayed complex thought patterns. The humans showed all of this, but scattered randomly throughout their population without clear organization. More puzzling still was the single reading that blazed brighter than all the rest. The scanners had identified what they called the prime specimen, the individual with the highest life force readings on the entire planet. According to the biosensors, this being radiated more raw potential energy than any creature the Vorthak had ever encountered. This was their target. This was the champion they would face. Thexval opened a communication channel to the human ships that were moving to intercept them. The translation matrix kicked in, converting his words into the crude sounds these creatures used for language. Greetings, humans of Sol 3. I am Commander Thexval of the Vorthak hunting fleet. We come bearing the ancient challenge of dominance. Your species will select its greatest warrior to face our champion in single combat. When your warrior falls, as they all do, your world will submit to Vorthak rule. This is the way it has always been. The response came quickly, transmitted from a ship the humans called UES Harmony. The voice belonged to someone identified as Captain Lee Do-Hyun. Commander Thexval, this is Captain Lee of the United Earth Space Command. We receive your transmission but do not understand your intentions. We seek peaceful contact with all species. If you wish to establish diplomatic relations, we welcome discussion. Thexval's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. Always the same response from species facing their first hunt. Always the hope that words could replace the ancient laws of predator and prey. There will be no discussion, Human Lee. There is only the hunt. Our bioscanners have already identified your apex specimen. We will retrieve this individual from Colony Haven 7 in 72 of your hours. Prepare them for glorious combat. Captain Lee's voice returned, now carrying tension. Colony Haven 7 is a civilian settlement with families and children. We cannot allow you to threaten innocent people. Please reconsider your approach. Thexval studied the tactical display. The human ships were moving into defensive positions, but their weapons were pitifully weak. Energy beams and explosive missiles against bioships that could regenerate faster than these crude devices could damage them. The humans would fight, of course. They always did. But it would change nothing. Your concern for the weak is noted, Human Lee. But the hunt cannot be stopped. Our target is already chosen. Colony Haven 7 contains the being with the strongest life force signature we have ever encountered. This individual will face our champion, or we will take them by force. Choose wisely. The communication ended. Around him, his hunting pack stirred with anticipation. They could sense his excitement, feel the biological pheromones he released when prey was near. Hunter Grixmoth stepped forward, his massive form towering even over Thexval. Commander, should we deploy the fear pods to soften their resistance? Thexval considered this. The fear pods were bioweapons that released terror-inducing chemicals into a planet's atmosphere. They made populations easier to control, broke the will to fight before the hunt even began. But something told him to refuse. No. These humans intrigue me. Their strongest specimen shows energy readings beyond anything we have cataloged. I want to see what they are truly capable of when pressed to their limits. Stalker Vendal moved from the shadows where she had been standing. Her form was sleeker than the others, built for speed and stealth rather than brute force. Commander, what if their champion proves stronger than expected? We have never encountered readings like these before. Thexval turned all 6 of his eyes toward her. The question bordered on heresy. The Vorthak had never lost a hunt. They were perfect predators, engineered for victory. Then we will have found prey worthy of our attention at last, he said. But no creature in 3 galaxies has ever matched the Vorthak. These humans will be no different. The bioship continued its approach toward the blue world ahead. In its belly, dozens of smaller hunting vessels prepared for deployment. Each one was a living thing, bred for stealth and speed. They would drop from orbit like spores, penetrating the human defenses to reach their target. Colony Haven 7 lay spread across a continent on the planet's largest landmass. The bioscanners showed it clearly now, a settlement of perhaps 50,000 humans. The energy signature of their target blazed like a beacon in the sensor readings, located in what appeared to be the colony's central district. Thexval felt the familiar rush that came before every hunt. His biosystems began flooding his body with enhancement chemicals, sharpening his reflexes and expanding his sensory input. His hunting pack was doing the same, their forms beginning to shift and adapt for the coming battle. In 72 hours, they would descend to claim their prize. Another world would fall to Vorthak dominance. Another species would learn that in the vast darkness of space, there was always a bigger predator waiting in the shadows. The hunt was about to begin. Colony Haven 7 buzzed with desperate activity. Emergency sirens wailed across the settlement as families packed their belongings and rushed toward evacuation ships. The news had spread quickly through the colony's communication network. Alien hunters were coming, and they wanted someone from Haven 7. Security Chief Kim Nara stood in the colony's command center, watching the tactical displays with growing worry. The alien ships hung in space like dark storm clouds, their biosignatures, unlike anything in the military databases. Her small security force was trained for dealing with pirates and wildlife, not intergalactic predators. "Status report," she called out to her team. Lieutenant Park Jinwoo looked up from his console. "Evacuation is 60% complete. The civilian transports are loading as fast as they can, but we still have 20,000 people to move." "What? About the children's center?" Kim Nara asked. The colony's education facility housed nearly 300 young ones during the day cycle. Most have been picked up by their families, But we lost contact with Section C during the communication. Blackouts. Emergency teams are checking now. Kim Nara felt her stomach tighten. Section C was where the youngest children spent their days, learning basic skills and playing games. If families couldn't reach that area due to the evacuation chaos, children might be left behind. High above the planet, Thexval prepared his hunting pack for descent. The bioship's sensors had locked onto their target's exact location. The energy signature came from the colony's central district, specifically from a large building the humans used for educating their young. This puzzled him. Most species kept their strongest warriors in military compounds or leadership centers. Why would this apex specimen be in a place designed for children? Perhaps the humans used different organizational methods than other species. Begin the descent, Thexval commanded. Remember, we seek only the prime target. The others are not our concern unless they interfere. 8 hunting pods detached from the mothership. Each one was a living creature, its body designed to survive. Atmospheric entry and deliver its passenger safely to the surface. They fell toward Haven 7 like drops of liquid metal, their surfaces rippling with adaptive camouflage. In Section C of the Education Center, 6-year-old Park Min-ho sat alone in classroom 12. He had been coloring pictures when the sirens started, but teacher Yuna had stepped out to check on something and never returned. The other children had been collected by worried parents, but Minho's mother and father worked in the outer mining district. The communication systems were down and no one could reach them. Minho was not scared. He was 6 years old, and 6-year-olds did not understand enough about the galaxy to be properly frightened. Instead, he continued working on his drawing. It was a picture of his family having a picnic under Haven 7's purple sky. His father was smiling and holding a sandwich. His mother was pointing at the strange birds that lived in the colony's park. Everyone looked happy. The building shook slightly as something landed on the roof. Minho looked up from his crayons for a moment, then went back to coloring. Adult problems were for adults to worry about. He had important art to finish. The hunting pods had landed throughout the colony with perfect precision, each one cracked open like an egg, releasing its passenger onto the streets of Haven 7. The Vorthak hunters emerged from their biotransport. Cocoons, their forms already adapting to the local environment. Thexval's pod had struck the education center directly. His enhanced senses immediately locked onto the energy signature that had brought them across the galaxy. The target was close, perhaps only a few walls away. He could feel the incredible life force pulsing like a beacon. He extended one clawed hand and touched the building's wall. His biosensors fed him information about the structure. Simple materials, designed for comfort rather than defense. The humans had never expected predators to hunt them in their own homes. The wall dissolved under his touch, bioacids breaking down the molecular bonds that held it together. Thexval stepped through the opening he had created, his form shifting, to better navigate the narrow hallways designed for much smaller creatures. Behind him came Hunter Grix Moth, his massive frame barely fitting through the corridors. Stalker Vendal flowed like liquid shadow, her form compressed to slip through ventilation systems. The hunting pack spread throughout the building, following scent trails and energy readings toward their target. Kim Nara received the report over her emergency communicator. Chief, we have confirmed alien presence in the education center. All sections except C have been evacuated. We're still trying to reach the remaining area. How many people are unaccounted for? We think maybe a dozen staff members and perhaps 20 children. The communication breakdown has made accurate counts impossible. Kim Nara grabbed her sidearm and emergency kit. I'm heading to the center personally. Keep loading the evacuation ships. If we can't save everyone, we at least save who we can. She ran through the colony streets, past families dragging luggage toward the transport zones. The sky above showed dark shapes moving against the stars. More alien pods were landing throughout Haven 7, but most seemed focused on the central district. In classroom 12, Minho had finished his family picnic picture and started on a new one. This drawing showed the colony's main street, with all the shops and cafes where his parents sometimes took him for treats. He was very careful with the colors, making sure each building looked exactly right. The classroom door opened. Minho looked up, expecting to see Teacher Yuna or maybe one of his parents. Instead, a tall shadow filled the doorway. The shape was strange and dark, with too many arms and eyes that glowed like distant stars. Most children would have screamed. Most adults would have run in terror. But Park Minho tilted his head to one side and studied this new visitor with curious eyes. "Hello," he said politely. "Are you here for art time? I can share my crayons if you want." Thexval froze in the doorway. His biosensors confirmed that this small creature was indeed the source of the incredible energy signature. But the readings made no sense. The child showed no signs of enhanced strength or combat ability. No weapons, no armor, no protective modifications. Yet the life force readings were unlike anything he had ever encountered. The child's neural activity blazed with creative energy, imagination firing across synapses at rates that defied explanation. This tiny being's mind was generating more complex thought patterns than most adult warriors. "You are the apex specimen," Thexval stated, his words translated into the child's language. Minho nodded happily. "I don't know what that means, but okay. Do you like pictures? I just finished drawing my family. Want to see?" The Vorthak commander found himself in completely unfamiliar territory. Every hunt had followed predictable patterns. Warriors fought, leaders tried to negotiate, scientists attempted to study them. But this small creature simply offered to share artwork. Hunter Grixmoth appeared in the hallway behind Thexval, his bulk casting even deeper shadows. Stalker Vendal materialized from the classroom's ventilation system, her sleek form dropping silently to the floor. 3 of the galaxy's most feared predators now surrounded one human child who continued coloring as if nothing unusual was happening. "The target shows no fear response," Grixmoth rumbled in their native language. "Should we proceed with standard intimidation protocols?" Thexval studied the small human. The child looked up at them with bright, curious eyes, completely unafraid. In one small hand, he held a red crayon. In the other, a sheet of paper covered with colorful drawings. "Perhaps," Thexval said slowly, "we should observe the specimen more closely before proceeding. This is unlike any prey we have encountered." Minho held up his newest picture. "Look, I drew all the buildings on Main Street. This one is the ice cream shop where Daddy takes me on hot days. And this is the bookstore where Mommy buys me storybooks. Do you like stories?" The 3 hunters exchanged glances. Their biosystems were still registering the incredible energy output from this tiny creature, but nothing in their experience had prepared them for prey that wanted to share stories and offer art supplies. The hunt was not proceeding according to plan. Minho reached into his backpack and pulled out his big box of crayons. It was his favorite possession, given to him by his grandmother before she went to live on the farming colony. The box had 64 different colors, including special ones, like burnt orange and seafoam green. "You look really interesting," Minho said to Thexval, studying the alien's shifting form with an artist's eye. "Your skin changes colors like the rainbow fish in our aquarium. Can I draw you?" Thexval's multiple eyes blinked in confusion. His bioarmor was designed to inspire terror, shifting through colors that triggered fear responses in most species. The adaptive camouflage was meant to confuse prey and make him appear larger and more threatening. But this small human saw it as something beautiful. "Draw me?" Thexval repeated the words slowly. "Yes. I'm really good at drawing. Teacher Yuna says I have special talent." Minho spread a fresh piece of paper on his desk and selected a purple crayon. "Can you hold still for a minute? It's hard to draw when people move around too much." "Hunter." Grixmoth growled low in his throat. "Commander, this is highly irregular. We should proceed with the challenge protocols." But Thexval held up one clawed hand for silence. Something strange was happening to his biosystems. As the child stared at him with focused concentration, his adaptive armor began responding in ways he had never experienced. Instead of cycling through threatening displays, the living tissue was settling into softer, more pleasing patterns. Minho began to draw. His small hand moved the crayon with careful precision, creating the outline of Thexval's form. But in the child's interpretation, the Vorthak commander did not look like a terrifying predator. The drawing showed a tall, friendly figure with kind eyes and a gentle expression. "You have really pretty colors," Minho said as he worked. "Purple and blue and green all mixed together, like the sunset over the lake where we go camping." Stalker Vendal moved closer to observe. Her stealth systems, designed to remain invisible to most forms of detection, flickered and failed under the child's direct gaze. Somehow, this small human could see her clearly, despite her camouflage. "Hello?" Minho said to her without looking up from his drawing. "Are you his friend?" "You can. Sit down if you want, there's plenty of room." Vendal froze. Her bioform was engineered for hunting in shadows, designed to strike fear into the hearts of prey. Her elongated limbs and predatory stance had terrified countless warriors across the galaxy. But this child spoke to her like she was a neighborhood friend dropping by for a visit. 3 blocks away, Security Chief Kim Nara fought her way through evacuation crowds toward the education center. Her communicator crackled with reports from around the colony. "Chief, we have alien contacts in 7 different locations. They seem to be converging on the central district. Any hostile actions?" That's the strange part. They're just standing around. No attacks, no destruction. Our surveillance cameras show them in various buildings, but they're not moving. Kim Nara frowned as she ran. Predators that did not hunt made no sense. "Keep monitoring. I'm almost at the education center. Back." In classroom 12, Minho had finished his first drawing. He held it up proudly for Thexval to see. The picture showed the Vorthak commander, but transformed through a child's perception into something wonderful rather than terrible. In the drawing, Thexval was smiling and surrounded by flowers. "See? You look really nice when you smile," Minho said. "Do you like flowers? My mom grows flowers in our garden. She says they make everything more beautiful." Thexval stared at the drawing. His biosensors were providing increasingly confused data. The child's neural patterns showed no deception. No fear, no hidden agenda. This small human genuinely saw beauty in his form. More disturbing was what the drawing was doing to his own biology. As he looked at the child's interpretation of himself, his bio-armor began shifting to match the image. The threatening spikes and razor edges softened. The intimidating color patterns faded to gentler hues. "This cannot be happening," Grixmoth muttered. His own form was experiencing similar changes. The child's unwavering acceptance was somehow reprogramming their adaptive systems. Minho started a second drawing, this one featuring all 3 aliens. "I'll draw all of you together," he announced. "Like a family picture. Are you a family?" "We are a hunting pack," Thexval said automatically. "Oh, like wolves. I saw wolves in a nature documentary. They take care of each other and play together. That's nice." Minho selected a green crayon and began adding details to his new picture. In this drawing, the 3 Vorthak hunters were sitting around a picnic table, sharing a meal and laughing together. Grixmoth was drawn as a gentle giant, carefully holding a tiny flower so he wouldn't crush it. Vendal appeared as a graceful dancer, her movements fluid and beautiful, rather than predatory. As the child worked, Dr. Yoon Tae-hyung watched from the colony's emergency bunker. The xenobiologist had been monitoring the situation through hidden security cameras, and what he saw defied everything he knew about alien contact protocols. "The bio-readings are incredible," he reported to the evacuation coordinators. "The alien forms are actually changing, adapting to match the child's perceptions. I've never seen anything like it. Is the child in danger? Dr. Yoon studied his instruments. I don't think so. If anything, the aliens seem to be becoming less threatening by the minute. The child's creativity appears to be overriding their predatory programming. Minho finished his second drawing and immediately started a third. This time, he drew a playground scene with human children and alien visitors playing together on swings and slides. His imagination transformed the fearsome hunters into playmates and protectors. Do you like to play games? Minho asked as he colored. I know lots of good games. We could play hide and seek, but you'd probably win because you're really good at hiding. Vendal's stealth systems flickered again. Her bioform, designed for invisibility and ambush tactics, was responding to the child's perception of play rather than predation. She found herself wanting to engage with this strange game concept rather than complete her mission. Thexval realized that something fundamental was happening to his hunting pack. Their biotechnology, evolved over millions of years for perfect predation, was being rewritten by a 6-year-old human with a box of crayons and an unlimited capacity for seeing good in everything. The hunt was becoming something else entirely. Hunter Grixmoth was the first to experience the full transformation. His massive form, built for crushing bones and tearing through armor, began to change as Minho added more details to his drawings. The child had drawn him as a gentle protector, carefully helping smaller creatures reach high places and sharing food with hungry animals. Grixmoth's razor-sharp claws softened into rounded appendages. His acidic saliva neutralized into something harmless. Most shocking of all, his biosystems began producing new chemicals, ones designed for nurturing rather than hunting. He found himself wanting to pick up the small human and keep him safe from harm. Commander, Grixmoth's voice had lost its threatening growl, becoming deeper but somehow warmer. I am experiencing system-wide modifications. My hunting protocols are being overwritten. Thexval watched his lieutenant with growing concern. The transformation was unlike anything in Vorthak history. Their biotechnology was supposed to be perfect, unchangeable, evolved over millions of years for one purpose only. Yet this small human was rewriting their very nature with colored wax and paper. Stalker Vendal was fighting her own changes. In Minho's latest drawing, she appeared as a graceful teacher, showing young creatures how to move quietly through forests not to hunt, but to observe and protect nature. Her bioform responded by losing its predatory edge. Her movements became fluid and careful rather than deadly. The child's neural patterns are affecting our adaptive systems, she reported, her voice losing the cold efficiency it had carried for centuries. His perception is somehow becoming our reality. Minho looked up from his artwork and smiled at all three aliens. You look different now, happier. Do you feel happier? The question stopped all three hunters cold. Happiness was not a concept in their vocabulary. They knew satisfaction from successful hunts, pleasure from defeating strong prey, but happiness was something else entirely. Yet, as Minho asked the question, they realized they were experiencing something new and pleasant. I think we do feel happier, Grixmoth admitted, his voice filled with wonder. Major Cho Jiwon arrived at the education center with a full security team. They found the building's walls dissolved in several places, clear signs of alien bioweapons. But as they prepared for combat, they heard something unexpected. Laughter. Hold positions, the Major whispered into her communicator. I'm hearing conversation from inside. She motioned her team to follow her through one of the openings. They moved carefully down the hallway, weapons ready until they reached classroom 12. What they saw made several soldiers lower their guns in confusion. 3 of the most terrifying creatures they had ever seen were sitting cross-legged on the floor around a small boy. The aliens had somehow become less threatening. Their forms, softer and more approachable. The child was showing them pictures and explaining each one with excited enthusiasm. This one is my house, Minho was saying, holding up a crayon drawing of a simple building with flowers around it. "And this is my dog, Buddy. He's really friendly and loves everyone. Do you like dogs?" Thexval studied the picture of the small creature the human called a dog. According to his biosensors, it was a domesticated predator, yet the child described it as friendly and loving. More confusing still, the idea of a creature that loved everyone seemed somehow appealing, rather than ridiculous. "We do not know dogs," Thexval said carefully. "Are they warriors?" Minho giggled. "No, silly. Dogs are for playing and cuddling and going on walks. Buddy likes to chase balls and sleep in sunny spots. He's not scary at all." The concept of a non-threatening predator made no sense to the Vorthak, yet they found themselves wanting to understand. Their biosystems continued to adapt, moving further away from their hunting configurations with each passing moment. Security Chief Kim Nara finally reached the education center. She had expected to find a battle zone or worse. Instead, her communicator brought her reports that defied belief. "Chief, you need to see this. The aliens they're playing with one of the children." Kim Nara rushed to classroom 12 and stopped in the doorway next to Major Cho. The scene before her was unlike anything in first contact protocols. 3 alien predators sat peacefully while a 6-year-old boy taught them about crayon art and family pets. "Status report," she whispered to the major. "Unknown. The aliens landed 40 minutes ago and went directly to this location. They've been in this room ever since. No hostile actions, no demands. They just seem to be socializing." Minho noticed the humans in the doorway and waved cheerfully. "Hi, these are my new friends. They don't know how to draw yet, but I'm teaching them. Do you want to see their first pictures?" Kim Nara stepped carefully into the room. Every instinct told her this was dangerous, but the aliens made no threatening moves. If anything, they seemed almost protective of the child. "Hello," she said to Thexval. "I'm Security Chief Kim Nara. Are you the commander of the alien vessels?" Thexval turned his multiple eyes toward her. His form had changed so much that he barely resembled the terrifying predator who had issued hunting challenges hours earlier. His bio-armor had settled into soft, pleasant colors that reminded Kim Nara of sunset skies. "I am Thexval," he said. "We came here to hunt your strongest warrior, but we found something else instead." "What did you find?" Thexval looked back at Minho, who was showing Vendal how to hold a crayon properly. "We found something we did not know existed. A creature that sees beauty where others see fear. One who offers friendship where others would flee." Grixmoth held up a piece of paper covered with clumsy crayon marks. It was his first attempt at art, a simple drawing of flowers under a smiling sun. "The small human taught me to create rather than destroy. I have never made something beautiful before." Kim Nara felt her world shifting. These were supposed to be galaxy-conquering predators, yet they spoke with wonder about learning to draw flowers. Minho ran over to her and tugged on her uniform. "Chief Nara, look what my friends made. Isn't it pretty? They're really good learners." She knelt down to his level. "Minho, are you okay? These beings didn't frighten you?" Minho shook his head. "They're not scary. They just look different. Everyone looks different if you really think about it, but everyone can be friends if you try hard enough." From the mouth of a 6-year-old came wisdom that had eluded galactic civilizations for millennia. Kim Nara looked at the 3 transformed aliens and realized that humanity had just achieved something unprecedented without firing a single shot. They had turned conquerors into friends with nothing but crayons and unconditional acceptance. The transformation of his hunting pack filled Thexval with something he had never experienced before: panic. For 3 centuries, he had been the perfect predator, leading the most feared hunters in 3 galaxies. Now his warriors were sitting on a classroom floor, learning to color inside the lines from a human child. But deeper than panic was something worse. As he watched Minho patiently show Vendal how to blend colors together, Thexaval felt his own core programming beginning to shift. The child's absolute faith in the goodness of all beings was infecting him at a cellular level. "No," Thexaval said suddenly, standing to his full height. "This ends now." His sudden movement made the human soldiers raise their weapons. But Minho just looked up with curious eyes. "What's wrong?" the child asked. "Don't you like making pictures?" "We are not here to make pictures," Thexaval said, his voice carrying desperation. "We are hunters, predators. We came here to prove our dominance over your species." Minho tilted his head thoughtfully. "But why would you want to do that? It sounds lonely." The simple question hit Thexaval like a physical blow. Lonely. In all his centuries of hunting, he had never considered whether dominance might be another form of isolation. Always standing above others, always proving superiority, always alone at the top of the predator chain. "Because that is what we are," Thexaval said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I don't think that's what you really are," Minho said gently. "I think maybe you just forgot how to be happy." Security Chief Kim Nara watched the exchange with growing understanding. The child was doing something that military strategists and diplomats had never imagined possible. He was offering the aliens something they had never known they wanted: acceptance without conditions. But Thexaval was fighting the transformation with everything he had left. His biosystems responded to his desperation by beginning to strip away all the modifications that had occurred over the past hour. The gentle colors faded, the softened edges sharpened, the nurturing chemicals dried up. "I will show you what we truly are," Thexaval said, his form beginning to change more dramatically than ever before. Major Cho stepped forward, but Kim Nara held up a hand to stop her. Something told her that weapons would not help in this situation. Thexaval began to shed all of his biomodifications, all the enhancements and adaptations his species had developed over millions of years. Layer after layer of evolution peeled away, revealing something that had not been seen since the earliest days of Vorthak history. What emerged was pure hunger, not the refined hunting protocols of a civilized predator, but raw, primal need that had existed since before language, before culture, before anything resembling civilization. This was the force that had driven his ancestors to consume entire worlds, the darkness that had eventually been channeled into their hunting rituals. The entity that stood in classroom 12 was no longer recognizably Vorthak. It was living shadow and endless appetite, the embodiment of predation itself, ancient and terrible and utterly without mercy. Grixmoth and Vendal backed away from their transformed commander. Their own recent changes made them sensitive to the waves of pure malevolence radiating from his form. This was what they had been before learning to create art and feel happiness. The human soldiers raised their weapons, but Kim Nara knew their energy beams would be useless against something that existed more as a concept than a physical being. But Minho just looked at this manifestation of ultimate darkness and reached for his black crayon. "You look really sad," he said to the writhing shadow that had been Thexaval, "like you lost something important and can't remember what it was." He began to draw on a fresh piece of paper. This time, his picture showed a small, dark creature sitting alone in an empty space. The drawing was simple, but somehow captured the essence of profound loneliness. "I think you're scared," Minho continued, his crayon moving with careful strokes. "When I get scared, my mom hugs me and tells me stories until I feel better. Do you want to hear a story?" The shadow entity that was Thexaval's true form writhed and pulsed, but made no move to harm the child. Something about the small human's continued calm was holding the ancient hunger at bay. "Once upon a time," Minho began, adding details to his drawing, "there was a lonely shadow who lived all by himself. He was very good at being scary, so everyone ran away whenever they saw him. This made him feel even more lonely, so he tried to be even scarier, hoping someone would stay and play with him. In the drawing, the dark creature was reaching toward other figures, but they were all running away. But being scary just made everyone more afraid, so the shadow got sadder and sadder. He forgot that he used to know how to smile. He forgot that he used to like making friends. All he remembered was being alone. Minho added more details to the picture. Now it showed the shadow sitting under a tree, with tears falling from invisible eyes. The shadow thought he was meant to be scary forever. But one day a little kid came along who wasn't afraid. The kid sat down next to the shadow and said, "You don't look scary to me. You look like you need a friend." In the final part of the drawing, Minho showed the dark creature and a small human child sitting together, sharing a picnic under a bright sun. The shadow in the picture was smiling. As the child worked on his story picture, something unprecedented happened. The writhing mass of darkness that was Thexval's true form began to stabilize. The ancient hunger found itself confronted not with fear or anger, but with unconditional compassion. See? Minho held up his finished picture. Everyone needs friends. Even shadows. Maybe especially shadows because they spend so much time alone. The transformation that followed broke every known law of biology and physics. The primal darkness that had existed since before civilization began to change, not just in form, but in fundamental nature. Light began to emanate from within the shadow, not consuming the darkness, but existing alongside it in perfect balance. What emerged was neither the refined hunter Thexval had been, nor the primal entity he had revealed. It was something entirely new, a being that contained both darkness and light, predator and protector, ancient wisdom and childlike wonder. Thexval stood before them transformed completely, no longer a hunter or a shadow, but something the galaxy had never seen before. A guardian born from the marriage of infinite darkness and unconditional love. "I remember now," he said, his voice carrying wonder and sadness and joy all at once. "I remember what it was like before the hunger consumed everything. I remember how to smile, and for the first time in millions of years, the ultimate predator smiled." 3 months later, Colony Haven 7 had become the most unusual place in human space. The emergency evacuations had been called off within days of the first contact, replaced by the most remarkable cultural exchange in galactic history. The Vorthak hunting fleet still hung in orbit above the colony, but their purpose had changed completely. Instead of bioships designed for conquest, they had become guardians of the human settlements. When pirates or hostile forces approached human space, they found themselves facing creatures that made their worst nightmares seem friendly. But those same terrifying predators could be found in Haven 7's parks on quiet afternoons, carefully learning to push human children on swings without breaking the equipment. Thexval stood in the colony's new cultural center, watching dozens of young Vorthak learn basic art techniques from human children. His own transformation had been the most complete. The being who had once been the galaxy's most feared hunter now served as both protector and student, learning concepts like kindness and joy that had been absent from his species for millions of years. "Uncle Thex!" Minho called out, running across the art room with his latest creation. At 6 years old, he had become the unofficial ambassador between species, though he still thought of it as just playing with his friends. "What have you created?" "Today, little artist?" Thexval asked, kneeling down to the child's level. His form had stabilized into something that combined his original predatory capabilities with the gentle nature Minho's perception had awakened. He remained dangerous when needed, but that danger was now channeled toward protection rather than conquest. "I drew our first meeting," Minho said proudly, holding up a picture that showed 3 scary monsters transforming into friends through the power of shared art. "Remember how you thought you were supposed to be mean? That was silly. Yes, it was very silly, Thexval agreed. We had forgotten that being strong means protecting others, not hurting them. Across the room, Grixmoth was helping a group of human children create clay sculptures. His massive hands, once designed only for crushing, moved with infinite care as he guided small fingers in shaping their projects. The former hunter had discovered a talent for teaching that surprised everyone, including himself. Vendal had become the colony's unofficial playground supervisor. Her stealth abilities, originally meant for stalking prey, now allowed her to appear instantly wherever children needed help or protection. She had prevented dozens of scraped knees and settled countless playground disputes with the patients that once served her in long hunts. Ambassador Han Soo-jin arrived that afternoon with a delegation from the Galactic Council. Word of the Vorthak. Transformation had spread throughout known space, creating a mixture of hope and skepticism among other species. Ambassador Thexval, she said formally, though the title still seemed strange when applied to a former galactic conqueror. The Council has requested a full report on your species' change in status. Of course, Thexval replied, though I should mention that we no longer consider ourselves the same species we were before our encounter with young Minho. Han Soo-jin nodded. The transformation had been so complete that xenobiologists were debating whether to classify the modern Vorthak as an entirely new form of life. The Council is particularly interested in how this change might be applied to other aggressive species. Several worlds have requested Vorthak peacekeeping assistance. Thexval considered this. His people's reputation for invincibility now served a completely different purpose. Pirates and conquerors who once feared Vorthak hunting fleets now faced the even more terrifying prospect of creatures who could not be reasoned with, bribed, or defeated, but who would protect the innocent with absolute determination. We have been discussing this among ourselves, Thexval said. We believe our new purpose is to hunt those who would harm the defenseless. The predators who prey upon civilized worlds will find us waiting for them. And if they prove resistant to your methods of conversion? Thexval's expression hardened slightly, revealing glimpses of the formidable predator that still existed within his transformed nature. Then they will learn why the galaxy once feared us, but now directed toward worthy targets. The afternoon concluded with the colony's daily art-sharing circle. Human children and young Vorthak gathered together to show their latest creations. The sight of creatures who once consumed worlds now proudly displaying finger paintings and crayon drawings never failed to amaze visiting dignitaries. Minho sat in his usual spot at the center of the circle, surrounded by friends from two different species. He had no understanding of the galactic significance of what had occurred. To him, it was simply proof of something he had always known. Everyone could be friends if you tried hard enough and shared your crayons. I have an announcement, Thexval said to the gathered group. The Council has approved our request to establish similar programs on other worlds. We will be taking our message to places where it is needed most. What message is that? Asked Dr. Yoon Tae-hyung, who had been documenting the transformation process since the beginning. Minho raised his hand excitedly. That everyone is good inside, even if they forgot how to show it. And that making pictures together is more fun than fighting. Thexval nodded solemnly. The child speaks wisdom that military strategists and philosophers have spent centuries trying to understand. Sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is simply refusing to see enemies where others see friends. As the sun set over Colony Haven 7, the former hunting fleet prepared for their new mission. They would carry Minho's message to the dark corners of the galaxy, that no one was beyond redemption, that every predator could learn to protect instead of hunt, and that the ultimate weapon against hatred was a crayon-clutching child who believed in the goodness of all beings. The hunt continued, but now they hunted for those who needed friendship rather than those who deserved conquest. And in the cargo holds of their bioships, alongside weapons that could level planets, They carried something far more powerful: boxes of crayons and construction paper, ready to transform the next impossible enemy into an unexpected friend. The ultimate hunters had found their true calling at last. And it all began with one small human who saw monsters and offered to share his art supplies. In the end, the galaxy learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their courage, but their unlimited capacity to see the best in others and refuse to accept that anyone was beyond saving. Sometimes the most devastating weapon was a 6-year-old with a box of crayons and an absolute faith in the possibility of friendship. The hunt for peace had begun.